So good morning, everybody. I'm Danilo Tomasoni from the COSBI Foundation in the northern Italy. At COSBI, we build text mining tools to support our projects, mainly in the area of systems biology and drug repurposing. And today I'd like to talk you about one of such tools, that is CSpace. Why is it used for? The aim of CSpace is simple: to find all, and all is the keyword, the relevant articles for a given topic. And this may look like an already solved problem. We have search engines, we have ontologies, we have deep search, we have a lot of engines. I think that that's not a solved problem, and I will explain why with an example. Imagine you are interested into the glycemic index literature because you are going to build a model out of it. You may start typing in your engine glycemic index and some synonyms you may be aware of. If you have an ontology, you may look for synonyms in the ontology. But you may not know, in this specific context, that there is a widely unknown synonym of glycemic index, that is glycaemic index. And I told you because this really happened to us. We didn't look for glycaemic index and found later relevant information that was more useful in the beginning, let's say. So, of course, before building our own solution, we looked for alternatives. And we found some alternatives based on Word2Vec that are quite old, but are not well suited for our task because they encode few single words, while often biomedical concepts are multi-word expressions, like earth failure or glycemic index. Other alternatives, we saw some of them also before, are transformer-based. And transformer architectures are designed to work on sequences, while we want to encode concepts that are unique, that are not dependent on the context. So we went down our own solution. Just to give some numbers, we trained our solution on the whole scientific literature, around 46 million articles, and ended up with around 30 million embeddings. Embeddings of size 152. I'd like to stress the fact here that it's a very low dimension. Just to compare, Ada2 from OpenAI as one order of magnitude more for each embedding. And how we did that? I already mentioned that we harmonized the scientific literature from PubMed, PubMed Central, Biomed Archives, clinicaltrials.gov, and then annotated all the text with the PubTator 3 tool. That gives not only spans in the text where the entities are present, but also an ontological identifier for those entities. And we exploited both that information in our training pipeline, in just putting it into the data. And once we've done that, we used the fast text algorithm, that is an improvement over Word2Vec, exploiting subword information. And the Word2Vec algorithm is very simple. It's just a one hidden layer neural network. And the self-supervised learning objective is to predict context word given the word of interest. And with this simple objective, training on 46 million articles, full text, and everything we can find, we ended up with these 30 million vectors. that are exactly the hidden layer of the neural network. So at the end, we discard the neural network, we retain only the hidden layer, and the hidden layer is exactly CSpace. We like to interpret CSpace as an extremely compact summary of the whole literature in an embedding space. And what we can use this for? First example, I already mentioned it, to have a more exhaustive literature review. So imagine you're interested in loss of memory. You may know that Alzheimer's is one of such diseases causing loss of memory, but you may not know all the diseases causing loss of memory. So by embedding the ontological identifier of Alzheimer's into the CSpace, you may look at the neighborhood and see all the related and similar in the space ontological identifiers and find dementia, Parkinson, cognitive disorders, and others. But you don't need to have an ontology. You may just encode free text. For example, if you are interested in lung development, you may encode lung development into the CSpace and get out of it all the possible ways authors talked about lung development in the literature. And many of them are not straightforward, as you can see, like bronchial development, lung dysgenesis, airway formation, etc. The same holds also for other examples like mRNA vaccine. A synonym is mRNA booster. And again, this is useful to raise the completeness of your search, because one thing that always struggles me when I do a search in the literature is have I found everything that's out there? Or I'm just stopping because I'm lazy or because I get out of fun. And this is really helpful, in my opinion, to be sure somehow that I explored all the possible keywords, all the possible articles that were publicly available. But it's not only that. Since CSpace encodes both free text and ontological identifiers, we can use it for semantic entity linking. So if you embed the acronym AD in the CSpace, the most similar free text is Alzheimer's disease. And the most similar ontological identifier is exactly the ontological identifier of the Alzheimer's disease. And this is extremely useful in many applications in our context for knowledge graph construction, where we want to have ontological identifiers linked to every entity in order to perform reasoning about that. Another possible application is to measure the relatedness between different concepts. In the plot, you see a PCA projection of some concepts in the CSpace, and you immediately spot that lipoprotein LPQT is closely associated to tuberculosis, while MAPT gene is more or less halfway between idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis and chronic fatigue syndrome. And while we have a direct association in literature between MAPT and idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis, we don't have such association with chronic fatigue syndrome. And why is that? By looking at the CSpace, we recognize that MAPT is closely associated with the long COVID. And in turn, long COVID shares a lot of symptoms with the chronic fatigue syndrome. So that's also a way to reason about indirect relationships that are otherwise not obvious by just reading the literature. And this is just what I already told you, but in text. So MAPT is causally associated with IPF. Tau proteins, MAPT is a tau protein, can cause long COVID. People with long COVID and chronic fatigue syndrome have similarly impaired balance and physical capacity. And lipoprotein LPQT encodes genes specifically required for mycobacterial survival that in turn is the cause of tuberculosis. Okay, we saw some examples, but how did we measured the quality of this system? To do that, we compared CSpace with alternative methods on 3 standard and widely recognized datasets for concept similarity, manually rated by medical experts, and found that CSpace has a better alignment with human similarity with judgment with respect to all the others. In particular, Bert, Krell-Hall, and Bio-Word2Vec are similar in structure because they are trained with a Word2Vec training objective, like CSpace. While, of course, OpenAI ADA2 is a transformer-based model. And I put this column here just to say again the same thing that I said before, that transformers are not well suited for this task. Further, we tested CSpace on the ontological counterpart of those datasets. And in this context, CSpace is the only tool able to give an answer, basically, because all the others are out of luck because they don't have ontological information in them. The number between parentheses is the performance of CSpace just trained on less data, with data up to February 2023. And the reason we did that is to be sure that the hyperparameters we choose for the algorithm were quite stable among different dataset changes that may occur in time. Another thing very important to say about performance is the out-of-vocabulary ratio. While OpenAI and transformer-based methods encode basically everything, with Word2Vec-based solutions, we may have words that were not in the training set, so you cannot apply the model to them. Other models like Bio-Word2Vec and Bert Krell-Hall encode few single words, and this is clearly reflected in the out-of-vocabulary ratio, while CSpace has a very low out-of-vocabulary ratio. But we take a step further and tested this model also on the sentence similarity task. CSpace was not designed for that, but just out of curiosity, we wanted to test it. So we used the BioSS dataset. That is, again, a dataset of 100 sentences manually ranked for similarities by medical experts. And in this task, OpenAI ADA2 won, but CSpace closely follows, specifically when we apply worm over distance to go from from a sequence of concepts to a single sentence embedding. And if you look at it, the difference in performance is less than 5%. And this, in my opinion, raises the question if we really need to use a complex transformer, if we just may do the same with very, very little computational power. Also because this system can be trained in a few days on cheap hardware without any GPU at all, and can run and be applied on billions of concepts and articles without much trouble. So that's pretty much everything for now. I presented CSpace, a lightweight machine learning model to enable many downstream analysis, such as exhaustive literature research, semantic entity linking, biomedical concept related to measurement, and potentially others. We published this model just last week. There you can find the link to the presentation on bioinformatics. And I thank you all for your attention, and I'm here to answer.
Hi, thanks for the great presentation. I was prompted by the fact that you used mesh terms as examples of the embedding and the reconstructions. Mesh terms also have this property to be hierarchically organized, and I was wondering whether you tried as a quality control to compare if you embed the mesh vocabulary and knowing their expected hierarchical organization, if also your embedding can return similarly structured hierarchical organization. Especially when you did this example, I could use the neighbors of my concept to query. If I want to be very specific, I would like to only use terms that are equally specific and not getting, for example, the parent, conceptually speaking. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's really an important topic. Thank you for the question. I think it's the next step. So one idea I have is to use CSpace also for structuring somehow, to help structuring ontologies or see the similarities between existing ontologies manually created and ontologies that we can automatically create out of CSpace.
Do we have other questions?
I may have missed this, but my understanding is that you reduced everything to 152 tokens. Is that right? Dimensions? Dimensions. Yeah. How did you pick those dimensions?
How do I choose the 152?
Yeah.
Just by experiment. There is no specific logic behind it. I try to compress as much as possible. That's the guiding principle, because we wanted a slim model that can run on very cheap hardware. So we experimented compressing, because often models like BERT, you have 100 and more dimensions. Our take is that this number is big, and we can do the same with less. So we try to compress as much as possible, and 152 is the best compromise we reached, basically. That's not the only guiding principle behind the number.
Thank you for your talk. As a follow-up question, for this 152, we're using only the individual concepts for the evidence. Or we're also using
the concept are derived both from puptator tree annotations and co-occurrence in the text, using a standard method that a statistical method that say that two words are the same concept is they often co-occur together in the literature. So this is the way we go from words to concepts, and then we use concept as a single entity that has a single embedding, so that we can do the stuff that you just saw.
And one, with single embedding is most probably difficult, but have you tried also connecting for the literature search, answering natural language questions?
I've not got it, sorry.
So the literature search that you can do with embeddings using these keywords.
Yes.
But you can also do it with natural language ways.
Yeah.
Right, like questions.
Yeah, that's the main.
Small, but have you tried that?
Have I tried what? Sorry. No, I have not understood. So if I've tried using this keyword to enhance my search, no.
You can take it in the break.
Okay.
Let's thank the speaker again.